3 times. One for Bishul, one for Achila, one for Hanoah. So I'm going to tell you something else in order to explain another part. I told it to some of the Bachrim as well. That's actually one source. That's one source of the limud is from the 3 times that it says in the Torah, L'Savashal Yadi. Correct? There's another way we know that you're not allowed to eat Basar Bechalav. It says, L'Soichal Kol Te'eva in Pashas Shmini. And Rashi writes, Kol Dover Sheti'avti L'cha. Anything that became disgusting and bad, yeah? You're not allowed to eat Kegoin if you make a mum on a korban, or you cooked basar bechalav, which now became something bad because the Torah said you're not allowed to eat that. So how do you know you can't eat basar bechalav? Because it says kol toyev, not because it says 3 times loisavashal. The Torah is repeating according to this mahalach. The Torah is repeating 3 times the same aveda. Don't be mavashal basar bechalav. So Tzvi is asking the obvious natural question, which he thought I would forget about, is so if you only know Bishul and you only know Achila, how do you know Hanoah? So ye should know the answer. So he started up with me, I'm going to start up back with him. Because you know a lot of Torah, so you should know the Gemara in Psachim, Amar Babo. Kol mokim shenamar b'Torah, lo yisoichal, lo yisoichlu, lo yoichlu, echad yisr Achila, ve'echad yisr Hanoah b'mashma, ad sheyefaret l'cha akosov, kederech shepiret l'cha ben avela. You remember that Gemara?
No.
You should. The Bavo said, anytime it says in the Torah lo yisoichal, it always includes Hanoah as well, unless the Torah says you could have Hanoah, like by Nevela. It says, what do you do with a Nevela? Lageir asher bishorecha titneno va'acholo oy mocher l'nochri. You can sell it, so you can have Hanoah. So if it says lo yisoichal kol teyeva, which includes, according to this Rababo, say you can't eat it, and say you also can't have Hanoah. So now, if I ask you a question, how do you know you can't eat or have enough from Basar Bechalav? One mahalach is what the Mechaber brings, b'shem Matur, b'shem Rashi and Chumash, b'shem what every kid knows, right? That it means, because it says 3 times in the Torah, 1 Achila, 1 Bishla, 1 Hanoah. Obviously that's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, or else how would we make that up on our own, right? And the second oifen is, because it says L'Seichal Kol Tayeva, which includes Achila and includes Hanoah. But because the Torah says L'Sevashel Gedi, l'chol adayis, this L'Sevashel, this L'Seichal Kol Tayeva, yeah, even according to the way the Mechaber says it, how do I know it's only derech bishul? Because how did the Torah tell you not to eat? By loisavashel. If you learn loiseichel kol toyevas, for sure only after bishul, because it's only a toyeva after you cook it, right? After you cook it, it became a toyeva. Now the Torah says loiseichel. So the only time it's osur min Torah is if it's first cooked. If it's not cooked, it's not osur min Torah. But it certainly is osur midrabanan. How would you know that basar bechalav it's not cooked? Just from knowing Torah and life. From which din would you know that you're actually not allowed to eat basar bechalav even if it's not cooked? Not because Tati told me you're not allowed to eat a slice of cheese and a slice of salami. You wait 6 hours between basar and bechalav? You're not cooking yourself, right? You're not cooking yourself. You're not putting yourself in the fire after you ate the basar and then the chalav. So now you're being washed basar bechalav. So you can't be eating basar bechalav, obviously. So obviously you can't have any form of connection to basar bechalav, even if it's not derech bishul. That is midrabana. So you can sell yourself, to a goy or to anybody if you want, because you're mutar b'hanoah. If you ate basar and then you ate chalav, okay, fine. That was a joke. But basically, we know, every kid knows, you can't eat basar bechalav midrabana. Correct? Okay. You can't eat basar bechalav even if it's not derech bishul. The difference is it's mutar b'hanoah. So if you have basar bechalav that is only midrabana, for example, basar oif bechalav, we're going to learn later, basar only means behema, doesn't mean oif. By the way, how do you know that it doesn't mean oif? It says so, right? No, because it's a feidish apostolic. Esat tzipoy loy vasar. What? Yeah, you're all saying yes. No. I hope not. Where does that pasuk come from? It's a tzipoy loy vasar. But the bris ben absarim, he says he didn't cut the tzipoy in half. So vasar there is with a sof. Bris ben habisarim, the 2 parts, and it says esat tzipoy loy vasar. The tzipor he didn't cut, so it's an old joke. How do you know that oif is not basar b'chalav? It says a tzipor is not basar, but that's a different kind of basar. It was a joke. You're supposed to know that, but okay. You're supposed to laugh. But anyways, so if you have any basar b'chalav dirabonon, it's mutar b'hanoah. So far, so good. Okay. First shach says she'enei osam min atayra ela derech bishul. Page ayin. Basar b'chalav is only osam min atayra derech bishul. Small little shach, keloi man says the shach. Avoloi al yedei kovush umeliche. She'enoi derech bishul. Kovush and melicha is not derech bishul, so basar b'chalav, basar that was soaked in chalav, correct? Or you salted basar and gvina or basar and chalav together. The halach is that it's not osam and atayra, it's only osam and derabana, so therefore it's mutar b'hanoah. Is that correct? That's what it says. Now if I asked you a question, is kovush and melicha a deraisa or a derabana? If that's the way I word the question to you, what are you going to answer? You don't answer. You say derabana. You all say derabana, correct? So then why is basar that was soaked in milk even asr midrabanan? Just wash off the milk and eat it. If basar was soaked in milk, kavush means for 24 hours in liquid, wash it off and eat it. What's the problem? But why is it even asr? What? What? The Hashem said it gets dissolved, or the Yossi says it gets absorbed. The Rabbanan. So why would the Rabbanan make a double the Rabbanan there? There's no tam. It's cold. What kind of tam? I asked you if kavush and malicha is a deraisa or the Rabbanan. When you salt two things together, is there a transfer of tam min ha-Torah or min Rabbanan? Huh? But the Rabbanan. So why is it also to eat? There's no transfer. Min ha-Torah. It's a double. So that's a mistake you're all making. It's actually deraisa. Of course, the fact that kavush transfers tam is a Torah dike thing. The fact that melicha transfers tam is a Torah dike thing. So when you soak basar in milk, there's min ha-Torah milk in there. You can still eat it because it's not cooked. You're allowed to eat a slice of salami and a slice of cheese min ha-Torah. You're allowed to eat them together because it's not derech bishul, correct? It wasn't cooked together. So kavush and melicha is a de'oraisa. The fact, the mitzius, is a de'oraisa. I'll bring you another raya that this idea exists. The Rabbi Kiva Eger brings a machlokes whether tzli is also derech bishul. Okay, if you roast it on a barbecue, you put a piece of cheese on the barbecue grill. You made tzli, correct? You put a piece of cheese. Is that also min ha-Torah or midirabanan? Did the cheese go into the basar min ha-Torah? Tzli, for sure. Hot, two things hot. Of course it goes in. Some say it's still mutar min ha-Torah because it's not bishul. Bishul means liquid. But you're going to tell me that hot roasting, no transfer of time? Of course there is. Correct.
How does this work with Tom Kaker?
Okay. So Binyamin asks, how does this work with Tam Ki Iker? The answer is simple. Tam Ki Iker is only treif tam. There's no treif tam if they're not cooked. Basar Bechalav is only treif when they're cooked. Now it's Tam Ki Iker. So if you cook basar and chalav, and the basar gave tam to the chalav, or the chalav to the basar, that might be called Tam Ki Iker once it's asr. But if it's kosher, there's nothing. Yeah, there's tam chalav and basar. Big whoops. It's mutar min ha-Torah. Nobody cares. I mean, the Chachamim care, but the Torah doesn't care if you eat basar and chalav together. So tam might be ki'ikir. You're allowed to eat basar and chalav, so long as it's not cooked together. The Chachamim came along and made a blanket statement. It's completely asar midrabanan, even if it's not derech bishul. So far, so good. So you have to remember, it's important. So if you salted treif with kosher, is it asar min ha-Torah or midrabanan? Min ha-Torah, because there's tam of the treif in the heter, tam ki'ikir. If you soaked treif in kosher water, is the water asr min ha-Torah? Yeah, of course. If you roasted treif with kosher, is it asr min ha-Torah? Yes, of course. Basar Bechalav is different halachas. Kavush and malicha is certainly not asr min ha-Torah. Tzli is a machlokes. Yeah? Okay. Stam. Question. What would be the nafke minah if tzli is deraisa or midirabanan? Number one, no, you can't eat it. Number one, if it's mutar b'hana or not. Number two, can you do it with the intention of throwing it in the garbage, let's say, not for hana? So, for example, I mentioned the story in the previous year, maybe I did with the rotisserie hot dog. Did I mention it? I told it to you guys. There was the guy in the canteen here 25 years ago in Yeshiva. He bought one of those hot dog machines, you know, that they and one bacher got angry at the other bacher, so he took a piece of cheese and he threw it on the hot dog. Okay? So the shaila really was, did he make the machine treif? That's a whole other conversation. If it didn't turn and the cheese didn't touch, it's part of the shiur that we gave in the previous, in Chulin, which we'll discuss later inside the Kibbeis. There's a different question. Did this guy do an Aveda? Did he actually do an Aveda when he took the cheese and threw it on the hot dog? So if it's a chicken hot dog, probably not. But if it's a beef hot dog or a classic hot dog, what would it depend on? If tzli is derech bishul or not. Correct? If tzli is derech bishul, he did an aveda, he cooked basar b'chalav. If tzli is not derech bishul, then he didn't do an aveda, he didn't cook basar b'chalav. Does that make sense? So far? Okay.
Marasayin will also be enough for me.
Let's stick to one subject. We can't bring all the subjects. And when we finish basar b'chalav, we start bringing everything else you know. What? Why? He didn't do bishul, it's tzli. If tzli is not derech bishul, oh, you're not allowed to salt basar b'chalav together, midrabanan. You are. You can't eat it. You might not be allowed to do it with the intention of having ano. That they quote as a minchas yankiv. And I forgot to mention the previous year, the Toiras Chatos is the Ramah. That's a major sefer here. Toiras Chatos. So I can't believe I forgot that. The Ramah wrote Darkei Moshe and Toiras Chatos, and then the Hagoyes and Shulchan Aruch. So a lot of times you'll learn later in Sivdala, there was stira from the Ramah, but in Toiras Chatos it says the opposite. Big whoops. So Toiras Chatos it says the opposite, because it's the same guy. Okay, he wrote the book. Okay, so nachzer li'inyonenu. Okay, now the Ramah makes a statement that basar bechalav that's only osir midrabanan is muter b'hano. That's the Ramah statement. It's a mechaber. I don't know why the Ramah had to write it. Everyone turn to the last sif in Siman Tzadik Aleph and read it to me. What page? I don't know. Figure it out. You big boss. Yeah. I'm not gonna figure it out. What the last sif? Ches, I think. It's Siman Tzadik Aleph.
In Basar.
In Basar, yeah, here. There's only one Siman Tzadik Aleph in Yoreh. What page?
Kuf Tezayin.
Fine. Kuf Tezayin.
In
So, yeah.
Basar.
Mamin lecha. What does it say? You want to read to me? V'loi b'hano. Exact same thing. Basically, the Ramah writes here that basar b'cholav as the Rabbanon is muter b'hano. So the Bekiva Eger and the Pesach Tshuva, I'm just saying Pasha Pshat here, they ask a question, we're going to learn soon, it should be muter b'bishul also. You could cook basar b'cholav the Rabbanon. You can cook basar oif b'cholav, maybe. So why didn't the Ramah write oif b'cholav? Why didn't he write muter b'bishul? Because certain ones you're not allowed. I'll give you an example. If you soaked basar in cholav and you took it out, can you cook that basar now with cholav? No, that you mamish now cooking basar b'cholav. Because min hatoyre, that's why I started off. Min hatoyre, what's inside the basar? Min hatoyre. Remember, kavisha, the mitzias that covers transfers time as a deraisa, right? So min hatoyre, this cholav in the basar. If you're going to cook it now, God forbid, you're going to be over number one on bishul basar b'cholav, but number two, it'll be also min hatoyre to eat also. 1 second. Yeah. I'm in the middle of Shiur, but what kind of numbers? Okay, I already forgot it. He said forget it, so I forgot it. If he said forget it, I forgot. Okay, so that's why the Ramah only writes, Hano is for sure going to be mutter. Every basar b'cholav as the Rabbanon is definitely going to be mutter b'hano. Sometimes it'll be osir b'bishul, depending on what it is. Sometimes it won't be osir b'bishul, but b'hano it's certainly going to be mutter. Okay, turn the page. The Mechaber says, Siv Gimel, Eino noyik elo bebasar behema tahira bechalev behema tahira. Basar bechalav ben hatira is only behema tahira. What's a behema tahira? So people erroneously learn it means a kosher behema. A behema that's kosher, which would sound like that a behema that's not kosher. If you go to ShopRite and you buy a piece of beef that's nevela and you cook it with milk, that wouldn't be basar b'cholav. That's what it would sound like. But that's not the pshat. You're correct. Behema toira means a cow or any other behema toira, even if it's a nevela or a treifa. Behema tmeya means a horse or a pig or any of the other behemoths tmeyas. And I always mention this in Shiur without saying the name, and people found it for me, but I'm not going to repeat the name. There was once an article in one of the very prestigious kashrus newsletters many, many years ago. And they wrote the following. They had a whole article that you cannot go to a non-Jewish culinary school. You know what a culinary school is? A school that teach you how to be a chef. Why? Because they make you taste the food. That's what they wrote. And the food they make you taste is treif. So therefore you can't really realistically go to a culinary school because you have to be able to taste and see what it's in there. How's that Shiur over there? Take it from me out. I'm watching you. Go. You too. Both of you. Same last name. There's a tape here, so I'm not going to screen the name. Same thing, no? Almost the same. You too over there. Hello, Shiur. Go to Shiur. Take it. Okay, where are we holding? What was I saying? So they said you can't go to culinary school. Why? Because you have to taste the food. So someone wrote a letter to them. It's not the reason. Most of the recipes are basar b'cholav. You can't cook basar b'cholav. You're not going to taste how to cook the basar b'cholav. So they thought they're Greisa Chachomim in the magazine. So they published a letter and responded. That's a toast. It's not kosher to meat. It's no basar b'cholav. There's no isra b'shul basar b'cholav. That's what they answered. I kid you not. That's what they answered in the magazine. If it's non-kosher culinary school, the meat is not kosher. It's not shechted meat, right? The Shulchan Aruch says there's no basar b'cholav bishul, so you're not even on bishul. The only reason why you can't go is you have to taste the food. So I right away fired them off an email. I said there's a typical amaratzishin mistake of Bochrim in yeshiva. They think that the Mechaber says behema tohira, it means kosher. It doesn't mean kosher. It means a kosher to behema. And it's a Mefurish Rambam. So they write back to me, well, we don't know. We'll look into it. It took them a few days. And they wrote back to me, yeah, you're right, and we're going to fix it in the next one. Actually, they published a bunch of letters on their website. Actually, not mine, but that's what they did. But they changed it, obviously. And the truth is, yeah, you are over on bishul, basar, b'cholav if you go to a non-kosher culinary school, because in many cases, the actual recipes have basar and cholav. So even if you can get away with the taste. All right. So the Mechaber says it's only noig by behema tohira, not by behema tmeya. But behema tmeya, pig and cholov, there's no basar bechalav. Because if you eat pig and cholov, what are you going to get punished for by Hashem? For eating what? For eating pig. You're not getting punished for eating basar bechalav.
Isn't it machlekes if a non-shechted animal being a teifo and nevelo?
Is basar bechalav?
Yeah, between
No.
the
No.
It's only Asiban no is the
90% of your questions we'll get to. So wait, if I don't get to them, then you'll ask. But no. Akaponim, Lamaisa says the Mechaber, behema tmeya with cholov, or cholov tmeya, pig's milk, horse milk, with tahira, with a regular kosher. There is no basar b'cholov. If you do that, you started up with Hashem only once, not twice. Yeah, you started up with Hashem not for basar b'cholov. I gotta cook it? Yeah, it's not basar b'cholov. Cook it, sell it. It's mutter b'ano, gesundheit. Okay? So far so good? Problem is, you all saw this. The Torah seems to indicate that no, the Chachamim had a meeting and they decided to say that if you actually ate behema tmeya b'cholov, you did two things wrong. You started up with Hashem and with us. You started up with Hashem because you ate behema tmeya, and you started up with us because you ate basar b'cholov derabbanan. That's what the Torah says. Okay. Comes the Bes Yosef and says, what kind of stupid meeting is that? Like, what does that even mean? It's anyways treif. How do you make something treif more treif? That was basically the business was kasha. How do you make something treif more treif? Comes the bach and the drisha and says, slow down. Sure, you can make treif more treif. Basar b'cholov has different halachas than tmeya. So we're going to add on the basar b'cholov chumris onto the behema tmeya to make it more treif. That's all. That's in a nutshell what he says. The bach and the drisha. You think it was only behema tmeya? Sure. When you ate it, yeah, okay, you probably started up with Hashem mainly. But the halachas, the ramifications of basar b'cholov are certainly worse than behema tmeya. So that's what the Chachamim did. They had a meeting and decided to add those ramifications. So, right? What are those ramifications? But that's only if you're Rabbeinu Afrayim and there's actually a difference. If you're Rabbeinu Tam, so he adds another one called Chaticha Roya L'Skabed, where in that case Basar B'cholov is different and worse than Behema Tmeya. So obviously it's not a Behema Tmeya, it's Behema Tahoida that was B'lei Cholov Tameh, because that's already a Chaticha Roya L'Skabed if it's Behema Tmeya. A big piece of Chazir is a Chaticha Roya L'Skabed. Okay. That's basically what he says. Okay. Comes the Shach, not the Taz, we'll get to the Taz in a minute. Comes the Shach, and the Shach says, this makes no sense. You're right, Rabbi Bach. I mean, had I had historically a source, a mucker, that there was a meeting by the Anshe Knesset HaKadolah, Ezra HaSefer, and Shimon HaTzadik, whoever was there at that time, Yechon King, had a meeting, and they decided that they're going to add to Behema Tmeya Basar B'cholov. I got you. I hear you. You're expecting me to believe that they actually made a meeting for that? This is retarded. Why would the Chachamim sit down and make a meeting for something that's as treif as can be to twist your arm even more? That doesn't make any sense. I guarantee you they didn't make such a meeting. Unless I have a mucker from a Gemara, a Medrash, a Yerushalmi, a Bavli, that such a meeting happened. That's what the Bes Yosef's taina is, says the Shach. Bes Yosef didn't say, what's the point? There is a point, if the Chachamim would want to. Why? Why would you want to do that? Why are you wasting your time on things that are awesome anyways? It's awesome anyways. That's the pshat when the Bes Yosef says, according to the Shach, the Gam lo yihoyo inyan lo asrei. What is lo yihoyo inyan? Not that there could not be a point. There is no point. That's why the Torah is for sure wrong. The Bes Yosef is right, and that's why the Mechaber Take doesn't say that there's any basar b'cholov derabbanan on this. Correct? So far, so good? All right.
So how does the Torah...
We don't know. Anytime we're going to argue with somebody, we don't have time to say, so what's he going to answer? You know why? Because even if I find you an answer, so what are you going to answer back? So, well, why doesn't he like that answer? And the end, you know where you end up? Shreidash HaNeshama. That's where you end up. Why does Beis Shammai argue with Beis Hillel at the end of the day? Because Beis Shammai is from Gvura, and Beis Hillel is from Chesed. That's at the end of the day. So you can continue going back and back and back and back.
What's the idea? Oh, all of a sudden the run.
I don't know. The Torah had or he made a mistake, Chas v'Shalom, or the Torah had a source. I don't know. But this is what it says in Shulchan Aruch, and we can't be doing that because else. I mean, that's Iyun. I mean, you could write ha'aras, isn't that beautiful? All right. So that's what the Shach Shita is. That the Mechaber of the Bes Yosef is correct. What he meant was, the Bes Yosef knew that you could tag on Basar B'cholov and make extra chumras. Of course he knew that. That wasn't his point. What are you talking about, Rabbi Tur? You just made it up. It doesn't say it anywhere. If I would have a mucker that there was a meeting, okay, they made that meeting and they decided so, right? But if there's no mucker, there's no source to such a meeting, finished. Okay. The Taz decides to go a step further and time it. They couldn't have had a meeting because it would make no sense. And he says, Poshet, why is Basar B'cholov different than Shari Surim? Why is Ch'tichan As Nevela Basar Bechalav different than Shari? What's the chilek? What's the fundamental chilek between Basar Bechalav and Shari Surim? One is Basar Bechalav is both heter, and Shari Surim one is Isur and one heter. The minute this is anyways treif, then it's not Basar Bechalav, and you can't say Ch'tichan As Nevela. They couldn't. That's the difference. They couldn't. Shach says they could have. They just didn't because it's pointless. The Taz says they couldn't. They didn't because they couldn't. And likewise, he argues with the same thing with Ch'tichor Eilis Kabed. Why is Basar Bechalav worse? Because it's Shneim heter. That's all the Taz says. Right. That's what the Taz says. Barichas Godel. Kvoidom b'mkoim amunach. I forgot to mention that the father-in-law of the Taz is the Bach. Moiri v'chomi, or Moiri Chomi, is the Bach, and he doesn't like his shred. All right, beautiful. Comes the Shach in the Nekudas HaKesef and says, this makes no sense what you just said. And certain Bochrim came over to me and tiny that the Taz makes a lot more sense than the Nekudas HaKesef. I'm going to present to you that to me, the Nekudas HaKesef makes a lot more sense than the Taz. The Taz to me doesn't make any sense, and I'll explain it to you. We all answered to me before when we said that Basar Bechalav, why is it worse? Why do we say Ch'tichan As Nevela? You all answered because Shneim heter. That's what you answered me. And therefore what? The hocus pocus, Shneim heter. Because it's both heter, that's why you say Ch'tichan As Nevela. That's the reason? Or the Havana? What's the Havana of Shneim heter? Because they're both heter, they need each other to make the Isur.
It's not the whole point.
I'm asking you, what does that mean? It sounds like hocus pocus. It is. I'm asking you, in Havana, if you had to explain that to a kid, what's going to be your explanation? Because they're both heter, that's why Ch'tichan As Nevela? That makes sense to you?
Because it's an extreme chumrah.
Because they're both heter, so there's an extreme chometz. It's like because chometz is by Yoreh by Yemotzis. That makes any sense to you? What's the connection? What's the connection? 1 second of Shneim heter to Ch'tichan As Nevela. What are you saying, Nachum?
Since let's say that each thing, right, if it's put together, now that means the entire this and the entire this. One problem. If you have, let's say, a piece of tray that falls into, let's say, water. The water's all fine. Just have a little bit.
I don't need to hear about Shadi Surim. You got there, almost there by Basar Bechalav, but you needed to use Shadi Surim to express your Basar Bechalav. You shouldn't have to support it from Shadi Surim.
This whole thing is not so.
I'll give you a better oisius to explain what you just said. Because it's Shneim heter, they need each other. They need each other to become Asur. So obviously that's the Isur. Me and you are made up. Isur v'heter, other Isurim and heter. The Isur is treif no matter what, and the heter is kosher. So why would I say Ch'tichan As Nevela? But if we need each other to make the Isur, then we both are the Isur. Is that correct? That's the pshat Shneim heter. Shneim heter needs a follow-up, and they together create the Isur. It's not hocus pocus Shneim heter. Correct? Now, take Basar Tmeya and Cholav. Yeah. Let's assume you want to say Ch'tichan As Nevela. Is the Tmeya kosher for the halacha of Basar Bechalav? For the hilchus of Basar Bechalav, is the Tmeya considered kosher? Meaning, does it need the cholav to make it a problem? Does it need the cholav to make it a problem? Yeah. So why can't you say Ch'tichan As Nevela? Who cares if it happens to be today for a different reason? For the halachas of this new entity that we're trying to create here called Basar Bechalav, they actually need each other. The Tmeya is not going to be a problem without the cholav. Neither is the cholav without the Tmeya. So what in the world is the Taz talking about?
What was the nafkamina for that?
I didn't say there's an nafkamina.
So there's no nafkamina.
I didn't say that there is no nafkamina. I didn't say there is. Let's understand what's going on here. I'll show you the nafkamina in a minute, all right?
This is the Nekudas Zog.
This is the Nekudas HaKesef. Now let's read it together in the Nekudas and I'll show you. Zog the Nekudas HaKesef. Lo kosher midi. It's a stupid point that the Taz says. He says that they can't be nevela. The mikol makim mishum basar bechalav kol chad ba'am penav sheshari. For the new isur of basar bechalav that the Chachamim would have wanted to make, had they done that, right? It would have been shneim heter considered. Vim kain chalav tahira nasa nevela mishum basar afagav du basar tmeya. V'chein basar tahira nasa nevela mishum chalav afagav du chalav tmeya. V'chein linichti charolis kabed. Then he finishes like Shaya Zirkin said, but I'm not arguing on the Taz. He's right anyways. Because L'Poel Mamish, I agree that the Chacham didn't do it. They could have, but they didn't. Mihu, the Shach Sivkot and Gimel Helesi, I concluded, Gam Kein Kibes Yosef. Mitay Me'achrini, for a different reason. Not because they couldn't, because I think they didn't. Why didn't they? Because it's stupid. It's anyways today. All right. Frek Shaya Zirkin, beautiful pshat. Machoik is whether they could have or they didn't. What's the Nafkamina B'Poel? I want somebody to tell me what the Nafkamina B'Poel is. Come on, guys. No. Taz tries that. Doesn't like it. Which behemoth that's treif, that's not kosher, is basar bechalav min atayra? I said before in Shiur. Remind me, what did I say? What kind of behemoth that's not allowed to be eaten, that's basar bechalav min atayra? What is that? Nevela. All right. So if nevela falls into chalav, do you say ch'tichan as nevela? Do you need now shishim against the whole chalav? According to the Taz, No, it's not Shneim Heter. See, it doesn't matter by Behema Tmeya, because everybody agrees the Chachamim didn't make it Basar Bechalav. But Nevela, for sure, is Basar Bechalav. Minat Toiri, you're not allowed to cook Nevela Bechalav. So if you cook Nevela Bechalav, yeah? Or let's say Cholav Nevela. Cholav Nevela. Dropped onto a kosher piece of Basar. Did the whole Basar become Chanan, Chtichanas Nevela, if you hold like Rabbeinu Ephraim? Machlok Shach and Taz. According to the Taz, what should be the din? No. But according to the Kudas HaKesef, what should be the din? Yeah. Yes. Huge nafkemina. It's not an nafkemina in this case, but it's certainly an nafkemina if you buy meat in ShopRite or cholov tmei or cholov treifa, let's say, whatever, from another place. 100% huge nafkemina. So who's right? What's the din taka over there? According to Rabbeinu Ephraim, not for this, us. Us it doesn't matter. We always say chtichanas nevela. But for the Svardim, we hold like Rabbeinu Ephraim that it has to be basar b'cholov to be chtichanas nevela. What would be the din by cholov basar behema or cholov nevela with the hoira? Who's right? So look at the Pri Megadim. Mishpat Zov Beis. Gam Mashakosav, the third line in, you see? Mishpat Zov Beis, second column. It's on the list. I'm going to read it with you inside. You have like the 4 lines in. Gam Mashakosav. Beis over here, somewhere over here. Gam Mashakosav. Second column, Mishpat Zov Beis. You're going to get used to finding this stuff quick. You found Gam Mashakosav? Yes, over here? No, Beis. You're not in Beis. It's the Aleph. Beis Akan. A few lines in. Gam Mashakosav. You found? Gam Mashakosav? Gam Mashakosav, the Taz writes, Heichad de Echad Osa B'fnei Atzmoi, Lo Yishayich Chaticha Nasus Nevela. Right? That's what the Taz wrote. Kosher. Ho, Bosa Nevela Utreifa B'chola V'kadoime, Chaticha Nasus Nevela. That's absolutely wrong. Mashakosav or Rambam, Perek Tes Milchas Mecholis Asuris. You're flat out wrong, says the Pri Megadim to the Taz. It's just not true. There are cases when it's not kosher and it's still chatichanas nevela. That's what the Rambam says. Okay, so now we know already that my nafkimina was a correct nafkimina because the Pri Megadim says that will be the nafkimina. That's his kasha on the Taz. That's where I got it from. I didn't make it up myself. I'm not shocked that you guys didn't know it. I didn't either know it. I saw it in the Pri Megadim. I'm just playing with you because that's my job. Okay, you understand? So basically, the Pri Megadim says that would be a clear nafkimina between the shach and the Taz, right? And happens to be the shach is right. Okay, has everybody understood? So now we explained, but who makes more sense? The shach makes more sense. It's not hocus pocus that it's two things that are heter, and that's a reason to say chatichanas is nevela. No, that's a reason to show that they need each other. Once I need you and you need me, then what are we? Together we are the Yisur. And that's chatichanas is nevela. When treif falls into kosher, the treif is treif, the kosher is kosher. And therefore the nafkimina would be by behema nevela treifa. So you see clearly, the shach would say chatichanas is nevela, according to the Rabbeinu Ephraim, the Taz would say no, and the Pri Megadim claims that the shach is right. How does he know? Side point. If you forget what I'm going to say now, it doesn't matter. Everything else you should remember. Open up a Rambam. It doesn't say that. It's not made up.
He made that up?
Yeah. It says in the Rambam that it's Basar Bechalav, but it doesn't say that it's Chtichanas is Nevela. Not only that I'm telling you that the Rambam doesn't say, the Pri Megadim himself later writes, it for sure doesn't mean Chtichanas is Nevela because it's not Shneim Heter. So the Rambam didn't mean Chtichanas is Nevela.
So why did he say
I don't know. I'm asking you a contradiction in the Pri Megadim. I'll go even a step further. Crazy thing I'm going to tell you. That later, the Pri Megadim says the Shach agrees to the Taz. Really, that is not Nasa Nevela. He agrees to the Taz that if it's not Shneim Heter, according to the Rabbeinu Ephraim, it's not going to be Nevela. So why does he argue? Because that's his job in the Kudas HaKesef, for argument's sake. Yeah. He says these Lashon. El Beis Milchamtei Hushav. Pri Megadim writes it later. El Beis Milchamtei, he just, his whole point in his book is, you say, I'll show you, maybe not, maybe fakert. I have Bachram all the time, you know. You say one thing, you say day, you say night. So that's the point. You can't prove from this shach what he really holds. That's what the Pri Megadim says. He happens to hold like that. Pri Megadim is masking that it's also and Nasa Nevela. But he's stopped making a side note here that the fact that he actually proves from the Rambam that it's Nasa Nevela, kilo, that's a fact, right? He himself writes, and the Taz will answer. I looked up the Rambam, that doesn't say that. Doesn't say anything about Nasa Nevela. Right? And number 2, Pri Megadim himself says that the shach even himself doesn't hold to the Svara. Okay? What does it say here? Pri Megadim. This is not mine. This is my son's. But whatever he writes, you got to learn. Okay. All right. Next. Understood so far, so good. So now we understand the havana of the yisoid, the machloikis, and the shach and the taz. Whether you need shneim heter or not, what would be the actual nafkimin? Right. Now let's talk about hanoah. What about basar nevela b'chalav? So you said it's a machloikis. I told you not true. So everybody else is basar b'chalav ben atayra. So if you cook nevela, you're over. You're not allowed to cook nevela with chalav. You can't go to a non-kosher culinary school if the recipes, which they do mostly, are basar bechalav. You're not allowed simply because you will have to be over mamish and aveda min ha-Torah of cooking basar bechalav. Fine. Once it's cooked, you can't eat it. Can't eat it anyways, because it's anyways nevela. But is it asr b'hana or mutar b'hana? Huge shaila. Question. You're not allowed to do business with treifa food, even if it's mutar b'hana. Are you familiar with that halacha? It's called isur schoire. Even something that's mutar b'hana, to make a business out of it, you cannot make a business in selling pig meat, nevela. You can't be a distributor of treifa meat to ShopRite. It's awesome to do business with things that are even mutar b'hana, as long as it's awesome in Torah. On isur derabbanan, you're allowed. The only thing you could do business with is chaylev, because the Torah says, Yei oseh l'chol melacha. Everything else you can't do business. It's a machloikis rishonim whether this isur is min ha-Torah or min derabbanan. But it doesn't matter. You're not allowed to do business. But the halacha is, if you ended up with treif by mistake, not intended, you could sell it. You don't have to throw it in the garbage. So if you own a shlachtois, slaughterhouse, and you shecht, and what happens if one of them becomes treif? You could sell it to a guy, because that's not your business. Your primary business is kosher. It's called nizdamen. Nizdamen means it happened. Not only that, there's a taz that's matir, that if your business is leather, you could kill the behemoth for the leather and then sell the behemoth for treif. Even though it's natural that you're going to kill the behemoth. You're planning to kill the behemoth and not shecht it, because that's not your primary business. Primary business is the leather, the skin. So it's called nizdamen. Whether everybody agrees to the taz, I don't know. But nizdamen is mutter. So for example, if you inherited a treifa restaurant, from your balchuva, your father, your grandfather owned a big chain of treifa restaurants, right? And he died. Okay? And you're the Yoreh, Baruch Hashem, Baruch HaTeva Meitiv, you made a lot of money. Now you ended up with a treifa restaurant. What's the din? What do you have to do? What? Oh, but you don't have to make a fire sale and lose money. You can sell. You have to get rid of the business. You have to sell the business, right? But you can wait till you get the fair market value for what the business is actually worth. In the interim, you're going to be making money on selling non-kosher food. That's okay. That's nizdamen, correct? But what can't you sell? Basar bechalav. Basar b'hana. This is only things that are mutar b'hana. There's an isur schoire. You can't do business. But if it's nizdamen, you could do business. This is correct. But things that are also b'hana, every treifa restaurant has isur hana. What's that? Basar bechalav. But the meat is never going to be what? Kosher. It's always going to be nevela. Which idiot pays for kosher meat for a treifa restaurant? I sometimes do that when I'm in ShopRite and I'm behind. I don't go over to the meat fridge, but when I'm behind someone who's checking out with meat, I always check the prices. I want to see. I don't know what's the difference of kosher and treif. It's scary here. Even with inflation and everything, the treif and the prices are much cheaper, right? So for sure, the meat is not kosher. There's no question that if you inherited a Wendy's, a Subway, or whatever, it's going to be treif and meat. So is nevela b'cholov? You're certainly not. You cannot a yid for sure. We'll get to that in a minute. You certainly, it's osir, right? But is it mutar b'hanor? The Rambam in Pirush Mishnayos is mechadesh that it's mutar b'hanor. Nevela b'cholov is mutar b'hanor, even though it's real basar b'cholov deraisa. And he says why. I'm going to explain this b'kitzer because I don't want to confuse you. Because the Rambam himself refers to it as a great point. I got a good chap. The Rambam calls it to himself hanekuda hanifla. In Yiddish they call it amoyre de kivart. The Rambam himself calls that. He wrote in Arabic and it was translated. I'm going to tell you now something brilliant, says the Rambam. So it's a little bit complicated.
But it's still also official, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know.
I know is the question. Can you sell
And
a
achila.
cheeseburger?
And achila
It's
is
anyways also about achila.
Yeah, but not if we didn't.
Who cares?
It was like Rambam.
Well, it's a different. That doesn't matter. It's not what
But the Rambam cares because you said this.
The Rambam says
Rambam
it's
spells it out. So
yeah, then it's basar b'cholov, but that's not irrelevant.
Okay.
The halacha l'maisa now. But Hano, the Rambam says it's mutter. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Is a klal gadol b'Torah. Anyone heard of the klal ein isur chal al isur? Ein isur chal isur means once something's treif, it can't become treif twice. It just doesn't work that way. You don't get malchus twice if it was already treif. You can't make it more treif. Okay? Give you an example, yeah? A woman that's an almona nebach. Yeah? Yeah. And she married another yid, and he divorced her. So if a Kohen Gadol marries her, how many Avedas would he be doing? 2. Kohen Gadol can't marry an almona and can't marry a grusha. Is that correct? If he marries her, how many times does he get malchus? 1. She was already osir for him when she was an almona. Right? He can't become more osir just because the situation made it more osir. It doesn't work that way. It's a klal. Ein isur chal al isur. There are 3 exceptions. Not everyone holds in the Gemara, Tanoim, and Amoraim of all three exceptions. Halacha, we hold of all three exceptions. And again, it really only matters in the times when you had to bring a korban or you had to get malchus. It doesn't really matter today, except they used to have different Beis HaKvaros for different levels of Bari Aveda, you know. If you do 2 Avedas, you're buried here. Those that did 4 Avedas get buried here. So it mattered, right? So it mattered how many Avedas you actually did. But okay, in our days, everybody's about Shuvah. Everybody does good. There's no Bali Aveda. All right. So there's a klal Eidis Achal. The 3 exceptions are 1, Basachas. If they both happen at the same time, then they both kicked in. Which one kicks in? Both. The case I said, you can't be an almona and a grusha at the same time. Okay? Unless the get happened as he died. I don't know. It doesn't work that way. She's an almona first, and then she's a grusha. The one husband died, the one husband divorced her. So she's already also. But Lu Yitzur, you have a case where the Isur came bebasachas. Shchita b'Shabbos with Avei Zor. The Gemara brings many cases where it could be basachas. You're not going to get malchus twice. The second one is koilil. Isur koilil. Why am I teaching you this? Because if you're going to become a rabbonim, you better know Torah, right? Isur koilil is, for example, a guy made a neder that he's not going to eat meat. Yeah? On Yom Kippur, he ate the meat. How many malchus should he get? Okay, there's no malchus from Kippur, but what? Whatever. How much should he get? Well, it's ein Isur chal al Isur. It's anyways treif. Yom Kippur didn't add. But since Yom Kippur is koilil all foods, since Yom Kippur, when Yom Kippur came, it was koilil all foods, so this piece of meat, the Isur of Yom Kippur, it tagged on this piece of meat together with all the other foods. That's what koilil means. In other words, if the Isur that came later happens to include more things, that's also koilil. So you're going to get twice. And this third one is Isur moisif. If the second halacha was moisif more dinim, or moisif more people, yeah? Moisif more people, you also get malchus twice. An example. The same case with the Kohen Gadol, flip it. She was first divorced, and then she became an almona. I'm sorry, did I say? Yeah, she was first a grusha, and then she became an almona. Yeah? No, I did it wrong. Almona and grusha go the other way around. She was first an almona, and then she became a grusha. Okay. When she was an almona, who's she also to right now? A Kohen Gadol, but not a Kohen Hedyot. A regular Kohen can marry an almona. Then she got married to another guy and got divorced. Now she became also to who? Every Kohen. So together with that, the Kohen Gadol also gets a second Aveda. Kohen Hedyot anyways did one Aveda. The Kohen Gadol also gets a second Aveda because when she became a grusha, something new happened to her. So it happened to her for everybody, including the Kohen Gadol. So he's going to get twice punished, twice malchus. So the 3 yotzim and aklals, exceptions to the rule of Isur Chalal Isur is Pasachas, Koilel, or Mois.
Don't we also say that, like, because of Gav and Chevta, when you have like a Shwan and Neder, they count each other because of Gav and Chevta?
That's a different word.
Okay, but that's also a Shwan
Maybe,
Neder.
yes, because one is in the Gav, one is in the Chefta. But
Right,
it's a different word. Because the Isur do different things. Fine, maybe. You know too much Torah. So lots. All right, let's now go back over here. L'choida, the Rambam has a kasha. It's not a kasha. If you eat nevela, when you cook nevela b'cholov, what aveda were you over? Visual. You cook basar b'cholov, you're not allowed. Yeah. When you eat it, how many avedas did you do? 1. You can't do the basar b'cholov. It was already treif before it became basar b'cholov, right? So ein isur chal al isur. So how many times are you going to get malchus if you eat nevela to get that was cooked with milk? That guy got malchus for cooking. But when you eat it later, how many malchus should you be getting? 1. And you only get 1. Why? Because the basar b'cholov is not chal on it. Because ein isur chal al isur. Asks the Rambam, sure, it should be chal. It's moisif hano. Nevela is muter b'hano, basar b'cholov is osir b'hano. So since the basar b'cholov now became osir b'hano, that should add on this isur of basar b'cholov, and you should get twice malchus for eating. That's the Rambam's kasha and Pirush HaMishnah.
Why is there no Isra no Basar Bechalav for the milk?
There is, what do you mean? That's the kasha. On the nevela and the milk. What do you mean?
It's only one Isra because it's already nevela. Right. The milk is not already nevela.
Okay, because you ate 1 kazayis. Yes, a good question, but let's say you ate 1 kazayis. And even the milk, okay, there it's basachas, the nevela and the basar b'cholov. You ate 1 kazayis, huh? You ate the basar only, you didn't eat the milk. I hear you.
What was the question?
The question was, it's moisif. When it became basar b'cholov, it was moisif a halacha called hano. So automatically that should tag on the basar b'cholov even for achila. And you should get malchus twice. So ask the Rambam's kasha. There are 2 ways to answer this question. If I gave you 2 options to answer the question, what would you answer? One option is, it's muter b'hano. Sorry, it's a good question, but it happens to be muter b'hano. Right? That's one option to answer. So that's why your question is not a question. It's muter b'hano. Your question is a good question. If I can figure out a way that it's muter b'hano, No question. Second option is, hano doesn't count as moisif, for whatever reason. In Hilchas moisif, hano is not one of those. Doesn't count. Correct? There are two options to answer. What's the difference between two options? If it's take mutar b'hano or not. Can I sell the cheeseburger? If the only teretz I'll come up with why the Gemara says you only chayiv malchus once is because it's take mutar b'hano, then the cheeseburger you could sell, yeah? But if I come up with the other answer, I don't know if it's mutar b'hano or not. Even if it's osir b'hano, it doesn't count as moisif, then you'll tell me, I don't know if it's mutar b'hano. Mistam, it's osir b'hano, right? The Rambam is mechadish that it's mutar b'hano. And here's the nekud niflo. He makes a chap. I'm going to tell you the chap now. How do you know hano? Remember? Two options we started at the beginning of Shiur. There's a reason why I say certain information. How do you know Basar Bechalav b'hano? Two ways. One is because it says loy sevashel 3 times, the third time, or the first or the second.
Anytime it includes.
In other words, it's which word? Loy
Seichel.
soichal kol te'eva. Loy soichal includes achila and hano. So the only way you could get to hano is if there's an isur of loy soichal. Because ein isur chalal isur, so there's no isur of loy soichal anyways. So how could it be asur b'hano? It's a catch-22. Hano is dependent on achila. Since ein isur chalal isur, so there's no isur achila on it. It's already asur for nevela. So there's no hano automatically. That's the Rambam's nekuda niflo. I gave you a chap.
There's no achila and there's no no.
Right? So you take only get malchus for achila. Because there's no isur achila. Your whole question was, let there be achila because it became asur hano. No! Hano has to come after achila, not achila after hano. If you learn from the pasuk of the Seichel Kol Teyeva. That's how the Rambam learns in Pirush Mishnayos. And that's his teretz, Takim Mutar. Okay? There's a Tosfos somewhere in a different sugya that happens to give the other teretz. That hano anyways doesn't count as a Yisur Moisef. So what would Tosfos hold here? What do you think? Why? I don't know. Maybe he happens to agree to the Rambam too, to the Nekud and the Floor. I have no idea. What Tosfos would answer, would hold here if it's Asur B'hano or not, I have no idea. The kasha wouldn't be a kasha. Because it's anyways not considered Yisur Moisef. Does Tosfos indeed hold it's Asur B'hano or not? I don't know. Maybe he actually agrees to the Nekud and the Floor, right? I have no idea. So you have the Rambam Pirush Mishnayos is very clear, Mutar B'hano, right? You have Tosfos, which I don't know. Therefore, the Behuda, the Dogam Rava says that you should be machmir, but we're not going to kick you out of shul if it's Mutar B'hano. You can be mekel that it's Mutar B'hano. So now comes out a heter. Guy inherited a tray from a restaurant that sells Basar Bechalav. There is mokoim, there is some room to be lenient that the cheeseburgers are mutar b'hano. Why? Because it's anyways nevela b'chalav, and according to the Rambam and Pirush Mishnayos, and maybe even Tosfos, and you have the Dogam Mervava here that says hasoy mechal zeh b'mokim hefsid. If it's a lot of money and you can't find a guy to become a shutef and sell him the cheeseburger part of your business, which is what you should be doing, loy yafsid. You don't have to lose. However, the Pischei Tshuva brings from the Prima Godim that many poskim claim the Prima Godim Beroishim that the Rambam himself only wrote that in Pirush Mishnayos. In the Sefer Hayad, in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Rambam's halachas, he seems to indicate that it's actually Asur B'hano. Why? What about his Nekud Niflo? Because the Nekud Niflo only works if you learn Hano from the pasuk of L'Seichel Kol Te'eva, but if you end up learning the pasuk from L'Sevashel 3 times, it's certainly Asur B'hano. Why you don't get Malchus then on Achila? That's the Rambam's problem. Let him learn like Tosfos. I don't care. Let the Bezdin decide when Mashiach comes why they're not going to give you twice Malchus. I'm not worried about that, right? We're trying to figure out if it's Asur or Mutar B'hano. And therefore, he brings, stories over here. He brings from Poskim that it actually should be Asur B'hano. He brings the Prima Godim that Basar Nevela B'chalav should be Asur B'hano. Correct? So if you go with that Mahalach, what are you going to tell the guy that yash in the restaurant? Get a shutef right away. Stop selling cheeseburgers and get a shutef for goy and give him the cheeseburger business. Or sell him the cheeseburger business. That he makes all the profits from the cheeseburger and you don't. Correct? Now I want to ask you another question. Give me another svara that even at the point that we're holding, that the Velo B'chalav is Asur B'hano, that it's still Mutar B'hano, the cheeseburger. This is how halacha, I'm training your minds now to figure out things in halacha when you put the pieces of the puzzle together based on today, everything we spoke today, not anything that you shouldn't have known. Today, another component, another reason why the cheeseburger should still be Mutar B'hano, even if you hold the Velo B'chalav is Asur B'hano. All right, cheeseburger is bishul or tzli? What do you think it is? And I never made it, but what do you think it is? Tzli? It's not bishul, right? It's not bishul. Not cooking it. Cheeseburger is barbecued, right? According to the Ran, And the Chavos Das, as we'll see him at Shem later, they hold tzli is only Osir Midrabanon. So if tzli is only Osir Midrabanon, yeah, every Basar Bechalav it's only Midrabanon is Mutter B'Hana. So even if Nevela B'Chalav is Osir B'Hana, so some of the recipes might be Osir. Yeah, I don't know what goes on with Basar Bechalav. But I can put him the cheeseburger, which we're talking about, yeah, which is what's famous. Double cheese, if you choose burger, please. Yeah, they have those, from Burger King. What's bigger, Burger King or McDonald's? I think McDonald's a lot bigger. Yeah, a lot bigger. When I was in Russia, McDonald's opened up the first time in 1992. I have a picture somewhere. The lines on Ulice Aktopskaya over there were literally 6-hour lines.
Oh, that was a
to go eat a McDonald's cheeseburger that probably tasted like what I don't know. Anyways, so there were these Russian kids that they were getting online in the morning. They were selling their places for $20. When we walked by, $20 you get this place for the line so you pay $5 for the burger and $20 for the place because it was like an anomaly at the time. Anyways, but Basar Bechalav is tzli. Cheeseburger is tzli, and tzli is a machloikis. So really, if you want to be mekel, you have a double svara to be mekel, that it's muter b'hana. Number one, you have the dogma mervava that says that if it's a big hefsed, you could rely on the Rambam, right? Together with many poskim that hold that tzli, and cheeseburger tzli, is b'chlal na Basar Bechalav deraisa. B'meile, b'di'evet akoparim, if you didn't sell that business to a goy, b'di'evet, is yesh ma lismoich, there is room to from who to rely on, and svaras to be rely on, that it's muter b'hana. But can you work in McDonald's? So first of all, for sure not if it's in a Jewish neighborhood, because you're being machshel another yid to eat treif. But let's assume it's in a Goyish neighborhood. Can you make the cheeseburger? Well, if you hold tzli is only a drabanan, yeah, it's muter bebishel, you're allowed to. But it's a machloikis, you for sure can't. You can't work in a treif restaurant. A yid, any yid cannot work in a treif restaurant because you're going to end up having to be over on bishul or tzli of Basar Bechalav. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay, I don't want to go into the next sugya of shkedim, etc. So we're going to stop over here for today. And this is more of a technical shiur. Some of the other shiurim are going to be more explaining pshat of what's going on. But I'm giving you now an overview. That's what I want to do of Basar Bechalav. You should realize how to understand things eventually and try to extrapolate what I'm saying to figure out, like Basar Nevela with Chalav, if it's Chalitanasis Nevela or not, the difference if it's Deraisa or Derabanan, the Nafkimin, if you could work, if you could sell, etc., etc. So again, the guy that threw that piece of cheese on the hot dog, on the roller, yeah, it's a machloikis. If he was Mamish Oiven on Bishul Basar Bechalav, how's he going to find out? He won't, till he dies, right? Whatever, until Mashiach comes, he won't find out if he didn't. What? I don't know. Well, that was a whole different. I gave a whole shiur. What happened to the machine? That's a whole different shaila. If the cheese turned and touched the machine, there's no shaila. It's also. The question is, does the cheese go through? You tell me, based on what we learned, does the cheese go through and not the machine?
It's not.
There's no reitiv. Yeah, but the basar became nevela. Machlekes Ran, Raivet Shach and Taz. If the basar became,
how hard is it to make the machine? How hard is it to make the machine?
It's yatzeh. That is. It's boiling. You can't touch it. Try, come back.
What?
Touch it and come back.
No, to make it kosher. How hard is it to make it kosher?
Oh, you can't make such a machine kosher.
No?
No, you need a blowtorch.
Wow.
You can't. They'll break the machine. What do you mean? It's not kosher. You can't. Such a machine you can't kosher. It acid the machine for sure. According to the Shach for sure, and according to other poskim, yeah, the cheese could be considered fatty, and fatty does go through. We didn't learn that yet. That shuman goes through. There's a lot of other components. So yeah, he acid. If the hot dog was hot, if the hot dog wasn't hot, that's a whole other shiur.
It's a hot dog.
If the hot dog was hot already, if the hot dog wasn't hot yet, so then it's a whole other shiur. Did the machine make up the halacha, the hot dog hot to make the cheese hot to make the cheese go into the machine? Yeah, we're going to learn all that. There's no time out. There is no time out.
Just don't throw cheese at hot dog machines, okay?
That's also true. Oh, very good question. So the question is, okay, let's talk about it now. We can talk about it later. You're good. You mentioned there's a Gilya Mashal that I told you to learn that it talks about if yesh bishul achar bishul ein bishul achar bishul. On Shabbos, if you cook something twice, you chayiv?
No.
Are you allowed to? Mm-hmm. Yes. What do you mean? We said no. Yeah, you're allowed. What do you say? No. Ein bishul achar bishul. You're allowed. You can't do it when it's on the fire. There's didikim evashel. There's other issues involved. But technically speaking, mandalach you could put into a pot of soup that's off the fire. Absolutely. Awesome. For two reasons. The only ones that taste good. I don't care. Geffen, get the recipe right. Too bad. And number two, because they're cooked already. So ein bishlach a bishl. What?
Okay, some
Geffen tastes good.
Some Rabbanim believe it's mefarik.
What mefarik?
The powder.
What powder? There's no powder.
I argue with Rabbi Lieberman and all the Rabbanim that believe it's mefarik. I'm not gonna...
Guys, no mefarik. What powder?
The powder is one, and when you put
What powder?
Say that.
Oh, so I'm not talking about soup powder now. I'm talking mandalach. First of all, I don't even know what that means. But naniach, I wasn't talking about taking the osam soup mix. In America, no, the osam mandalach, soup croutons, the croutons. Akitzlaim bishlach bishla. What about basar bechalav? If you cook basar bechalav once, are you allowed to cook it again? So the Gili Mashal brings up Prima Godim Astira. Some places he says you're not allowed, some places you are allowed. Then he makes a pshara. If they were cooked independently and then you cook it together, that's also. They were already cooked once together, then you're allowed to cook it again. Ein bishlach bishla. So now you ask the question, in Halacha and Shabbos, they have the same question. Can you cook after tzli? What if something is roasted, not cooked? Can you cook it? So mandalach are not roasted, fried. They're mamish cooked in oil. But let's say you take a schnitzel that you made on the barbecue, yeah? Can you put it in chicken soup that's off the fire on Shabbos? Yesh bishlach tzli or ein bishlach tzli? Who knows the answer? It's machloikes. It's machloikes. What about basar bechalav? So all the achronim, they just make a pilpul. You can go either way you want. You could say basar bechalav for sure it's also because once it's tzli, first of all, if you hold tzli is derabanan for sure it's also, that's obvious. But even if you hold tzli is deraisa bishul, right? It's a different kind. You can go whatever. You can go either way you want. So if it's only tzli, you for sure shouldn't cook. And even bishlach bishul you shouldn't do lechatchila because there are svaras that yesh bishlach bishul. But Godim holds if you cook it together once, ein bishlach bishul. We'll discuss it later in Sivov Mitzvah Shem again. But bishlach bishul. It's never the question. The question if it was done has become also. The question is never just don't do it. I told you half of Shulchan Aruch is written for Ambaratzim and the Shoyim and mistakes. Mamish. And I always bring a Yimoyed Dikevort from it, and I saw it in a Sefer even. It's interesting. If you cook on Shabbos b'mezid, what's the din? He's not allowed to eat it. You think he's asking the Rav if you cooked it b'mezid on Shabbos? Well, what an idiot. You just cooked b'mezid, not b'shoigig, b'mezid. He's asking the Rav if he can eat it? Rabbi, I didn't have made it 2 minutes ago. That's the answer. The short answer is yes, he is. That's the Ayid. Ayid made a mistake and he cooked Shabbos. We still know that he's going to ask the Rav. We know he's going to ask the Rav. He's going to have charotah. And the Psach Halacha is going to be there. It's also
Jew.
Huh?
Jew.
The table's back. How would it deal?